Rev up your engines!
Well, so much for Tesla saving the world from pollution, because Tesla is now being sued by 28 California counties over hazardous waste handling. Of course, we have hypocrisy going all over the place here. People are taking them to court for allegedly mishandling toxic materials for years. Tesla's rated as number 89 in the top 100 toxic polluters. Now, it all comes out of the building of the cars in Fremont, California, where he started to make his cars in the United States, say that they didn't train their employees in how to handle hazardous waste, and Tesla had intentionally disposed of and intentionally caused the disposal of hazardous waste at points that were not authorized. And the state says Tesla continued to violate environmental rules for years intentionally and negligently suggests that the company's liability could go beyond civil penalties like fines. Funny thing is, Tesla even knew about it. Here's what they said to their shareholders the last meeting. District attorneys in certain California counties conducted an investigation into Tesla's waste segregation practices. While the outcome of this matter cannot be determined at this time, it is not currently expected to have a material adverse impact on our business. So you had to warn them because, they're taking them to court, right? But, it won't have a negative impact. Don't worry about it. Everybody believes the baloney I throw out anyways. So what, you go around polluting stuff, and electric cars really don't save the world one iota, but myths and reality, they're all interspersed, We really don't care. I think it's funny that he wasn't able to collect all those bonuses. They said that was illegal too when they went to court. How he was finagling the stock market and the stock just to get the prices up so he gets these ridiculous bonuses. Eventually it comes to roost. There are laws in the country that you're supposed to follow, right? Well, nobody likes really being in the hot seat, and if you own some GM vehicles, you may soon be in a hot seat, because it turns out some of their electric seats are starting to melt. GM says that some of their vehicles have a smoke smell, and around the front row seating area, there are burn marks around the height adjuster motor under the seat. The funny thing, they don't even know what's wrong yet, right? They don't even know about their own vehicles. As they say, GM is directing its certified GM technicians to determine the root cause of this condition. You know what the root cause is? Poor design, poor implementation of the design, and poor build quality. Now, this includes a whole bunch of cars. 2022 to 24 Buick Enclave, Cadillac XT4, Cadillac X15, Cadillac X16, Chevy Blazer, Chevy Cruze, Chevy Equinox, Chevy Malibu, Chevy Traverse, GMC Acadia, and GMC Terrain. 2022 to 2024. Well, they say they don't make them like they used to. Well, they certainly don't. The seats didn't used to start on fire and smolder, but now even they're doing that. They don't even know what's doing it yet, right? Let's see. If the burn marks are around the motor, maybe they didn't make the motors right. Oh boy, that'd be a stinker if they had to replace all those motors on those hundreds of thousands of vehicles. They'd probably just cover the whole thing up and say, no, that's no big deal. Till a few people burn down or something, and then lawyers will get involved on that one, right? I just find it hilarious. Okay, Mary Barr says, we're going to be electric car companies. We're going to make all this money making electric cars for everyone, right? They can't even make electric motors that move the seat of regular cars and trucks around. I think they make a whole car that runs on an electric motor. Boy, I wouldn't want to buy one of those. Gabriel Ancho says, I got 2004 Toyota Celica. It won't start. I bought it a year ago. I replaced the engine with a lower mileage, as the original one had 300,000 miles and was burning oil. I drove 100 miles, it broke down. I drove it a few miles, and then it tripped the camshaft position sensor code. Then I started it one more time, but that backfired. Now it won't start at all. Someone said the timing chain probably jumped. Now my valves are bad. Hell, that is a very common thing when you get a used engine. You don't know what the mileage was on that used engine, right? And it's very easy to tell if that's what happened. It's an expensive fix. So what happens when you get used engines, especially those are weak engines to begin with. You put in a used one, who knows what the history of it is, what it came from a junkyard. Cars in a junkyard wasn't taken care of all that well, right? Well, all you got to do is take out all the four spark plugs, get a compression tester, do a compression test of all four cylinders. If it's way low or some are almost zero, then the engine's broken internally and you just got yourself a crappy used engine that, went 100 miles and then went kapooey. That's the problem with buying used engines. It's a crapshoot, and those engines are notorious for being bad. It'd be one thing if you had like a Toyota Corolla, like an 1800cc engine. If it finally wore out. There's tons of them in junkyards just from old age. Up north, rusting away. The engines are still good. But those Celicas, those particular engines, they were weak engines to begin with. And putting a used in, man, that's a gamble. Altique says, my coolant fans run continuously. I got an '08 Nissan Frontier V6. Car doesn't overheat. The coolant fan comes on when a truck reaches normal operating temperature and won't shut off until I shut the engine off. I changed relays, etc., full of coolant, no vacuum leaks. I'm going to change the thermostat and housing today. There's no engine lights. What could I be missing? Okay, it won't come off until you shut the vehicle off. Now, one, that's not going to hurt anything. The computer's being told to put it on. You said you changed the relay. Could be a stuck relay, so it's not a stuck relay. There's one of two things that are probably going on. Just get a new coolant temperature sensor for the fan. The sensor could be bad, and then it turns it on, but then when it gets the lower temperature, it turns it off. It's supposed to turn it off, but if that part's broken, it doesn't turn it off. If it's not that, odds are you got a problem in a computer system, and that's such a pain and so expensive. I just live with it. As long as it's not overheating, I just live with the thing. I wouldn't go any further. You're not going to buy a computer just because the fan is staying on. And it often is. The computer driver circuit goes bad, and it'll do that. But try the sensor. Easy fix. Unscrew, screws in. And if that doesn't, I'd live with it. Now, I just can't believe the horse manure that comes out of economists' mouths, right? Will inflation fall below 3%? Economists expect that inflation slowed to 2.9% in January. I don't know where these economists live. They're either living in an ivory tower where they don't know where anything is, or they're just bold-faced liars. Car insurance this year is up 25%. Go to the grocery store. 3 bags of groceries might cost you $300. Look at the price of cars. Look at the price of houses. Look at the prices of just about everything. And if these fools think that we believe that inflation is 3% or less, they're living in la-la land. Of course, the whole thing is they just want to make things up. They want to make things look better than they are. I'll give you a perfect example. When Richard Nixon was president, there was a real problem with unemployment, right? So what did they do? They changed what unemployment figures are based upon. Originally was anybody over 18 didn't have a job, they're unemployed, right? Then they decided, let's just call unemployment the number of people who are collecting unemployment insurance, so that people who never had a job wouldn't be included. People who had unemployment insurance and ran out would no longer be included in the figures. So these figures you see are so slanted and fake, they mean nothing. And this inflation figure is probably the most disgusting thing of them all. There's no way that we're only getting 3% inflation every year. Go to the store. Look at your insurance bills. Look at your electric bill. My electric bill in Rhode Island went up 26%. Look at the stuff. It's going up, up, up. And then what do? Then they just look and say, let's base inflation on these figures that don't inflate this much, like the price of salt, the price of flour. Believe it or not, they put those things in it, right? How much salt and flour does the average person buy, right? They'll find things that make it look like, oh, it's not all that bad. Yes, it is. And this nonsense that these people throw out, and they have the brass balls to say this to the public. Inflation might only be 2.9% now. That is a load of total horse manure. Well, you think they've done everything they could possibly do that's squirrely in California, but guess what? Now they have an electric bicycle driver's license bill that they're going to make people get licenses to drive their electric bicycles. And of course, put more rules involved. California loves making rules. And here's one of the ideas in the bill that Tasha Borner, politician in California, says the bill would ban children under age 12 from riding electric bikes. Any riders who are at least 12 but don't have a car driver's license would be required to complete an online course, pass a written test, and get a state ID to legally operate an electric bicycle. How do you get a driver's license when you're 12? I'm sure they got rules in California for that, right? I mean, these people, do they live in the real world, or have they watched too many Disney movies? They even contradict themselves. Here's what the woman says. E-bikes provide that sense of freedom that so many school-age kids in California are looking for. So what does she do? She's restricting the freedom. Do these people even see the results of their actions? Action, reaction, right? A little physics here. Well, I guess they didn't do too good in physics. They just think they can say whatever they want. Oh, yes, this is great. Their freedom. Let's put some restrictions on this freedom right away. Now, this same idea was floated in California last year, but it didn't get into a bill, and so it didn't get voted in. Let's hope it doesn't get voted in again. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.